If you're struggling with stubborn belly fat in your 30s, I'm going to show you 3 simple ways in this video that you can start burning fat straight away without hours of cardio or fad diets. So let's break it down. Make sure that you stick around till the end, where I'm going to share an incredibly important point about fat loss. So let's talk about your metabolism. As you get older and into your 30s, there's a fear that your metabolism will have slowed down, and this is going to impact you from a fat loss perspective. So every single day, your body is burning less and less calories compared to perhaps what you were burning in your 20s, and you eat the same amount of food as you did before, but you start putting on weight. So is this what's really happening? Well, actually, I think whilst there might be an element of this at play, the amount that's impacting you is likely going to be very small, and there's probably going to be some other factors that are really behind the root cause for what's going on. Now, what I commonly see when people get into their 30s are a number of lifestyle changes which really impact our overall movement day to day. So it might be that you have an office job where you don't really move much throughout the course of the day, you're seated, you're sedentary. It might be that you've transitioned over the COVID timeline to working from home more often, whereas you used to be out and about with your job role previously. And this lack of movement has meant that it's not actually your metabolism that's causing you to be burning less calories, it's the fact that you used to be a lot more active previously than you are right now. And if you have a look online, we will see that the NHS suggests that the average step count for an adult in the UK is only between 3,000 and 4,000 steps per day. Now, when you've got a goal that's centered around fat loss, stripping fat away, getting rid of that stubborn belly fat, those love handles that frustrate us when we look in the mirror every single day, that is simply not going to be enough to start to accelerate and get things moving from a fat loss perspective. We have to be moving a lot more than this. So I would recommend that you want to set yourself a steps target of somewhere between 10 and 12,000 steps per day. Now, this is a weekly average, so if you have days that are slightly more quiet, you have days that are a little bit more busy, you can use this to your advantage. So let's say we're aiming for that steps target of 10,000 steps per day. If you have a slightly quieter day where you end up doing 8,000 steps, but the next day you do 12,000, then you are going to still be on track for that weekly average. So it doesn't necessarily matter if you can't hit that target each day, because you can use times like the weekend, for example, where you may have a little bit more time, or days where you know that you're going to be on your feet for a little bit longer to make up for days where maybe you've got a lot of meetings going on and you know that you're going to be trapped behind your desk throughout the course of the day. But the real big point you have to take away from this is that it's not going to be your metabolism that's slowing you down and stopping you losing that stubborn belly fat. It's the fact that you are going to be moving a lot less than perhaps you previously were, or it might have been that you've never been entirely active, but that's the change that you need to make. You need to start increasing a steps target and working towards that consistently, because the difference that will make in the overall average amount of calories that you're burning every single day will be so huge that it will make a massive difference when it comes to your fat loss goals. The second change that we're going to make is very much focused around diet. What I see very frequently is that as people get into their 30s, they start to become lazy around their food choices, and they also develop a addiction, in a sense, to just attempting fad diets as opposed to making a lifestyle change. So it might be that you've tried keto, you've tried fasting, you've tried Slimming World, you've tried shake diets, and it's not to suggest that none of those things will work, because they will, but the problem is it's about making a long-term change, not just something that you can stick to for free for weeks, but after a set period of time, you feel like you just end up going back to square one and you're stuck in this cycle of losing weight for a short period and then you just put that weight back on. So what we need to do is look at the reasons why those approaches haven't worked. And often what it will be is that you've got a job that's particularly busy, so maybe you don't have time to be prepping a set number of meals each day. A common thing I see is that people are in relationships or they've got a family and people want to be able to eat together, and the other half of that relationship or kids don't want to be eating these perhaps really boring and restrictive meals, and it starts to create this animosity in the household where one person is becoming frustrated, and in the end that just becomes a bit too much to stick with. That level of frustration just becomes too much, and again you're back at square one. So what we need to do is say, how can we move away from that approach of restrictive dieting where you feel like you have to cut things out, where you feel like you have to overhaul, I should say, your entire way of eating, and find an approach that's more realistic and is more centered around it being a lifestyle change as opposed to a diet. Because something that I commonly say to my clients is, if you look at an approach of eating, a diet, and you think, okay, do you know what, I can do this for 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks, that has already failed from the start. Because the problem is, if you want to be able to lose that stubborn belly fat and be able to keep it off, this has to be an approach that is going to work for you long term, for months and for years. So we need to move away from short term, 4, 8, 12 weeks, and start thinking in months and years when we look at the approach that we have with our diet. So there are 2 important targets I'm going to encourage you to set. The first is a calorie goal and the second is a protein goal. Now, if we've got that overriding goal of losing fat, seeing changes to our physique, we need to be in a calorie deficit. So the way that we're going to work that out is if you times your body weight in kilograms by 25, this will give you an approximate target for a calorie deficit. And then if you times your body weight in kilograms by 1.5 for females and 2 for males, this will give you a protein target to work towards. Now, when it comes to carbohydrates and fats, I don't want you to worry about that. I don't want you to overcomplicate things, because as long as we're sticking to the protein and the calorie goal, we will lose fat and we will see physical changes, and the carbs and fats can just come down to more personal preference, and you'll be just fine by doing this, rather than just trying to set so many different targets that make your diet again too difficult to stick with. Once you've then worked out that calorie and protein goal, what I want you to do is to look at the meals that you currently have across the course of the week. So your breakfast, your lunches, your dinners, and perhaps there might be a bit of a change in terms of the way that you eat on the weekend, and we're going to look at that as well when we review everything. But instead of saying to yourself, right, I need to find all of these new meals that fit into this calorie and this protein target that I've got, what I want you to do instead, and this is going to be a much easier approach for you to stick with, especially if you're someone that's got a busy job, you're in a relationship, you've got a family, or all of those things, is to look at the meals that you currently eat at the moment and ask yourself, how can I adapt these meals that I'm having so that they're aligned with my calorie and protein target, rather than finding new meals to eat altogether. And the way that you might do that is, it might be by adjusting your portion sizes, and that'll include tracking your calories so you're aware of how much food is in the meals that you're having, and it will also likely include ensuring that you're adding a source of protein in to all of those meals likewise. So it might mean that if you're used to having a pasta dish, you now start to add a bit of chicken into that dish, so it's a higher protein meal and you're getting 40 to or 30 to 40 grams of protein in each meal that you're having. So you want to ensure that you're getting a source of protein in and then spreading those calories out throughout the course of the day. You'll have your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, but perhaps also a snack somewhere between 2 and 4 p.m. Again, focused around protein, that's going to help keep you ticking over. You've got that long day, maybe you're in the office from 8 till 6 or 9 till 5, that point in the afternoon where you know you start to feel sluggish, and that's when you go for the snacks. You're going to have something prepared that will fit in with that calorie goal between 200 to 400 calories. It's going to keep you ticking over until you've got that evening meal. The third change we're going to make is incredibly important, and we are going to start to ditch the cardio and start focusing on the weight. So if you are someone that goes into the gym, you end up walking or jogging on the treadmill, you're on the cross trainer, the stair machine, you're doing the spin class, whatever it might be, moving forward, I want your focus to be on lifting weights and getting strong. If you have got a goal of shredding that stubborn belly fat, seeing tone and definition to your body, then that's only actually going to happen if you've got muscle that will show when you start to shred the fat away. So for that to happen, we need to be focusing our training on lifting weights and building strength. Now, that does not mean that you need to be in the gym 5 to 6 times a week for 2 hours a day, in fact, or 2 hours at a time. In fact, that is actually the opposite of what I would recommend. We are literally talking 3 60-minute full body sessions where you go in, you push yourself hard, you do perhaps only 2 sets of each exercise, but you really push yourself to a high level of intensity and you take the most from the work that you're doing at the gym. Now, in the description, I've added a bio for my own workout guide that you can use to design your own workout, pick from a choice of different exercises with video demonstrations as well, to make this incredibly simple for you to know exactly what exercises in what order with sets and reps and demonstrations. So head to the link in the description and download that now, as this will give you the structure that you need. And that's really, really important. It's moving away from being that person that walks into the gym that doesn't have a plan. They see, oh, the leg extension's free, I'll jump on that, or the chest machine's free, I'll jump on that. You've got a structure, you're following a plan, it's progressive, and that's how you're going to build muscle and see physical changes as well. Now, I mentioned to you at the start of this video about one incredibly important point that I wanted to add to this, and that is when it comes to fat loss and going for a successful transformation, there are 3 pillars that you have to manage if you want to be successful, which are nutrition, exercise, and consistency. And the problem is, if you take one of those 3 things out of the equation, the whole thing will no longer add up and you will not see results. So you might be someone that's been consistent with your diet, but you haven't been exercising, or you go to the gym, but you're not watching what you eat, or you do both of those things, but you're just not consistent with either. That will be enough to slow down or stop your progress altogether. And losing belly fat, that stubborn fat in particular, is about being consistent. It's about playing the long game. It's not about hacks and shortcuts. It's about turning up every single day, every single week for a long period of time and doing the things that aren't particularly sexy that will get you those results that you want. So you have to think about bringing everything together, not just following a food plan, not just following this next fancy workout plan that you saw online, about doing everything that's relevant to you seeing successful results and playing the long game to make sure that it happens. If you need help with finding what that right plan for you is, head to the description, click on the link to apply for one-to-one coaching with me, and I would love to chat with you about helping you on your journey.